I'm Lauren, and this is my May TBR. Okay, so let's talk about the books that I'm going to be reading in May. I know it's already halfway through May, but we're going to talk about them anyways. I really want to get into the schedule of posting wrap-ups and TBRs again, so I'm doing it this month, even if I'm really late. It's the best I could do this month. So anyways, I'm going to be talking about 6 books in this video. 6 of them, 6 others are going to be part of a secret TBR that I'm doing this month, and I mentioned that in my wrap-up. I read 2 books for that video last month, and I'm going to read the remaining 6 this month, so watch for that vlog. That will hopefully be coming pretty soon, where you can see me read those and see my thoughts on all of those books. But I can't tell you about those, so I'm going to tell you about the other 6, and then I'm going to throw out a couple more books at the end that are possibilities for this month if I happen to get through all of these, or if I'm not in the mood to read some of these that are on my list, because I am a mood reader and I don't always do so well with the TBR, so I'm trying, because I tend to read books that aren't priority over ones that are, and I don't know why I do that. I don't know. I think a lot of people do that, but anyways, I pick up books on a whim that I've never even heard of, and then I don't read these other ones that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. So I'm trying to be a little bit more disciplined with my TBR, but these are hopefully 6 that I will get to this month, and then I'll throw out a few others at the end that are maybes. So the first book on this list is Fire Study by Maria V. Schneider. This is the 3rd and final book in the Poison Study series, which I've been reading this year. So I read Poison Study, the first book, and talked about that one in my January, February, March wrap up, and then I read Magic Study, blanked on the name there for a second, Magic Study last month, so that is in my April wrap up, and then this month I'm reading Fire Study, which is the last one. So I'm not going to give you a whole lot of information, but this is a fantasy series. It follows Yelena, our main character, who discovers that she has very powerful magic, and she didn't know about this magic until, we experience her finding her magic in the book and finding out that she's a magician. And the second book is about her studying her magic, and then this book is the big fight, basically, the big war that's been building throughout the entire season. So this book is very action-packed. There is a lot going on. It is very tense, lots of tension, and I'm excited to see how the ending turns out. I've read the first 2 books before, but I've never read this 3rd one before, so this is a first-time read for me, and I cannot wait to finish the series. The second book, which is also one that I'm currently almost done with, is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I started this last month on audiobook, and then the audiobook returned itself because I wasn't finished. So now I have the ebook version, and I'm going to finish it up that way. This is the first book in a very long time by Erin Morgenstern, which is the author of my favorite book of all times, which is The Night Circus. And this book has very similar vibes to that one, so I was very excited to hear about this new book. It follows Zachary Ezra Rollins, and yes, they call him that. His full name, Zachary Ezra Rollins, the entire book. But he is a video game development student who also really loves books, and one day he goes to the library, he finds this book, and nobody knows what this book is. It's not cataloged, the librarians have no idea what it is, and he checks it out, takes it home, starts to read the stories in the book, and discovers that one of the stories is actually a story from his childhood about him. But the book is older than he is. So he's very, very confused. And the book has these symbols on the front of it. It has a bee, a key, and a sword on the front. And so he goes on a quest to kind of discover what these symbols mean, to figure out where this book comes from and why he's in it. And on his quest, he meets Mirabelle and Dorian, who are 2 people that kind of change his life. They bring him to this underground world, which is on the shore of the Starless Sea, and it's a world full of stories, full of books. It's kind of an underground library almost, and there's this whole separate world, really. It is really cool, but it's very similar in terms of vibe to The Night Circus, which I love. It is set up really interestingly, where there are stories from the book, the library book. You get to read the stories, and then it also gives you stories from other books that he discovers during the story. So many stories. So anyways, then you follow his story too. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now because too many stories, but it's very magical. It's the same beautiful writing as her previous book. And yeah, I look forward to sharing my thoughts about it with you in my wrap-up this month. The next book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and this is a reread for me. I read this book like forever ago and then never finished the series. And obviously that's a crime because this is like one of the most loved series on BookTube, and I know I need to read it, and I know I'm gonna love the subsequent books, but I didn't really remember anything about it, and so I decided I was gonna read it again. I'm listening to it on audio, and this one follows Feyre. She's a young woman who is part of a family who's kind of fallen into poverty, and her mother's dying wish was that she take care of her family. And so she's like the only one that's really not in denial of her family's financial situation. So she does everything that the family needs to kind of survive. And she's hunting one day for food in the woods and sees a deer who is also being hunted by a wolf. And so she decides, this is too much food to pass up. This could feed my family for like a week or more. So she decides to kill the wolf and the deer. And when she returns home, this very angry ferryman named Tamlin comes to collect her as payment for the murder of his friend who was the wolf. So it follows Feyre and Tamlin in the fairy world once she's taken in their story, and it's really, really good. So that's all I'm gonna say for now. I'll share my thoughts with you in my wrap up, but I think most people know what this one is. I don't think I really need to say anything more. I will say that this is one of the books that are maybe for the end of the month is the next book in the series. So I'm really hoping to kind of fly through this one because I'm in the mood for fantasy lately. And this is like the perfect fantasy for me right now because it does still have romance and it's just really good. So yeah, reading this one and I'm really excited. The next book on my list is one that you've probably never heard of before. It's called The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. And Francine Rivers is a Christian fiction author. I read her book Redeeming Love and absolutely loved it a few years ago. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I highly recommend that one if you like Christian fiction. But this is a new romance from her, and it's also said to be a redeeming love story. This is the book that we're reading for my book club this month. It follows Roman and Grace. Roman is a rich, famous LA artist, and Grace is his new personal assistant. And what Grace doesn't know is that Roman kind of has these demons in his past, and the way that he deals with those demons is by tagging buildings at night as the Bird. And so the Bird is this notorious unidentified graffiti artist, and Grace also has some issues from her past that she's dealing with, and the synopsis says that they start to realize that the jagged edges of their past are going to fit together. So I don't know, we'll see how that goes. I haven't read a Christian romance in a really long time, so we'll see how it goes. I know it's not going to be steamy like the other ones that I'm reading, but hopefully it's a really good story that gives a lot of hope. And you know, I need something happy right now with all the stuff that's going on, so hopefully I'll really enjoy this one. So right after I say that I need something happy, this next one is quite dark. So the next book on this list is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and this is kind of a forbidden romance between a teacher and his student, except I think that this one isn't necessarily following the romance aspect so much. It's following the psychological dynamics of their relationship. So this is the story between Vanessa, who is 15 years old, and her manipulative but magnetic English teacher, Jacob, and he is 27 years older than her. But Vanessa has to make a choice when a former student accuses Jacob of sexual abuse, and she has to decide between defending and protecting this man that she loves, or taking the chance to redefine herself in the events of her past. So I have a friend that read this and really liked it, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's gonna be intense. So if you've read this one, I'd love to hear what you thought about it in the comments. I probably won't get to this one until the end of the month, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it though. And then the final book on this list that I'm gonna talk to you about is Night Film by Marisha Pestle, and this is the only physical copy that I have. If you watch my wrap up, you know that I have not been reading very many physical books lately. It's been a lot of ebooks and audiobooks, so it'll be interesting to finally pick up a physical copy of a book. But this is a pretty crazy book from what I've heard. I know a lot of people have read this, a lot of people like it, a lot of people maybe didn't necessarily like it, but they still thought it was a cool experience. There's lots of mixed media in this, so I think it will be fun to read, and I'm excited to read a book like this again because I don't think I've really read anything like this since Illuminae, and obviously we all love that. So I'm looking forward to something a little bit different. So in this book, 24-year-old Ashley Cordova is found dead, and it is ruled a suicide, but an investigative journalist named Scott doesn't think that that's the case, and so he starts to kind of look into her life, and that includes investigating the life of her father, who is a famous reclusive cult horror film director, and he hasn't been seen in public for years, like decades. So it sounds like, from the synopsis, like he may have investigated this guy before, and there's some sort of connection and maybe like a revenge plot in there too. I don't really know. I don't know a lot about this, but if you know me, you know I don't like to know a lot about my thrillers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I was gonna read this at Halloween time and didn't, and now I don't feel like waiting until fall again to read this. So I know a lot of people read this one like during the spooky month, but I'm just going for it. So that is the final book that I'm going to talk about in detail in this video, but I do want to throw out a couple more, like I said, that are possibilities for this month. So the first one, like I already said, is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Really wanting to get through this series, so I may or may not read this one this month. And then last month I read my first Karen Slaughter book and really loved it, so I'm hoping maybe to read another Karen Slaughter book as well. If not this month, I'll probably read one next month. Pretty Girls is probably the one that I will pick next, but we'll have to see. If you have a recommendation for which one you think I should read next, please leave it in the comments down below. I read Pieces of Her last month and yeah, gave it 4 stars. I liked it a lot, and I really want to read the rest of what she's got out there. So those are the 2 maybes, and then of course, you know, I could change my mind at any point and just read whatever the heck I want. So hopefully you enjoyed this TBR. I feel like it was a little bit random. There's a lot of different stuff that I'm reading right now, but definitely look forward to that vlog. I feel like I'm putting a lot of work into it, and it's probably not gonna be real great because I don't really know how to vlog, but I am excited about the content at least. So yeah, be watching for that. It'll be coming out soon, and I will see you all in my next video then. Bye!